when I was a kid.
All I know is that you've watched 2 movies in a row without me that
Yeah, we should
I legitimately wanted to watch at some point.
give you a hero's welcome at least. Like, Chad, back in the house.
Back to steal the podcast away from you for a little bit. How much longer you got on your TV show?
I'm going till the end of July on that, and then it'll probably overlap a little bit with my next show, which I don't mind saying is Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, going back for season 3.
Season 3?
Yeah.
Yes.
Critically acclaimed and ratings challenged Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
I was going to say, did anybody watch last season?
Well, it's on Netflix, so I think people don't, even if they don't watch it on CW,
see it.
Yeah, they binge on Netflix.
Cool.
Which is a good way to watch a show.
I'm so far behind on TV, it's not even funny.
Yeah, I mean, me and Ashley are just watching Master of None season 2 on Netflix.
Oh, wow.
We're doing like one episode every 5 days. It's hilarious. You should watch it.
Further along than I am.
And that's what counts.
How you been otherwise? I know you want to get going with this because apparently it's Ashley's birthday weekend or yours?
Ashley's birthday weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, not today, but she likes to make a whole thing out of it.
Sure.
So we have date night.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So we gotta
no wonder
not be doing this until 9 p.m. No, that's just her face all the time.
So you were a little hesitant to select this one out of the 3 that I presented to you.
But
just because you've heard lackluster things, which admittedly, when you hear a movie is lackluster, that's generally almost worse than hearing that it's awful.
Yeah, well, most movies are lackluster. Most movies are right in the middle. Think of the bell curve. Like, a few movies are truly awful and need to be seen for how awful they are. Mm-hmm. And a few movies are really great. You need to watch them even if they're 60 years old. Most movies just kind of fall in the middle, They're just kind of products that are put out there. Mm-hmm. And you watch it and you're, I guess, hopefully entertained for the 90 to 120 minutes that they're on. And then once they're done, they're done. And you don't ever have to go back and think about it again. They're just kind of, that was a movie, sure.
This movie is the Notorious Bettie Page. It is, the first strike against it is that it's an HBO film. Back from the time before, I guess this would have been Sopranos era. Uh-huh. So I guess they would have been, getting into the
late 90s, early 2000s.
Televisions, yeah. This I don't know if I'd call this early 2000s. Let me see. Let's check the box. It's probably like 2006 or 7.
Okay, that's not so bad.
2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
an HBO movie is not a strike in my book because
we've already watched one.
Yeah, that was Cast a Deadly Spell.
Cast a Deadly Spell. They just tend to make movies that they fall into the range of movie that just feels short. Mm-hmm. It's like if this were a movie that had gone to the theater, it would have been probably like 10 to 20 minutes longer than this. Mm-hmm. That's generally, even though this is a 90-minute movie, or 88 minutes or whatever, 90 minutes. So even though it's 90 minutes, it's a very quick watch, and I think maybe it suffers because of that.
Okay.
But as far as like biopics are concerned, I thought this was a hell of a movie. I thought it was great. I think it might have struggled from the audience. You kind of need to be a little perverted, I think, to enjoy it.
Because it's
you're gonna love
Page, the pinup model.
Yes, you're gonna
the Notorious Bettie Page. Right. I'm not. We'll see. I hope it rises beyond its restrictions as a movie of the month or whatever it was.
I could make a crude comment right here, but I won't.
Oh, rises.
Hey. Try.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, let's do it.
Let's hit play.
Will you take a picture of me? It's silly. People take pictures of me all the time, but I don't know how to take one of myself.
She was the pinup queen of the universe.
I need you to lift your knee up. I'm seeing a little bit too much. Can you bend over? Show us your keister.
Oh, you're so happy.
Never know how much I love you.
Her pictures captured the fantasies of a nation.
Takes all types to make a world. What kind of types? I'd like this young lady to look very strict.
Little John has some special outfits he'd like you to put on.
I say they're special.
Betty, do you understand what kind of man buys these pictures?
Does it just make you sick to see guys like me grovel like this?
It's fine.
Don't you just want to crush us, humiliate us, punish us?
But for Bettie Page, life was more than just a pose.
Tell it, what do you think of all this tying up business?
Oh, I enjoy acting very much. Has Mama said anything to you about my modeling? Not a word.
What do you think Jesus would say about what you're doing now?
I hope that if he's unhappy with what I'm doing, he'll let me know somehow.
Picture House and HBO Films present the woman behind the pinups.
It's quite a treat to meet the Notorious Bettie Page. Send the next one in.
And the life behind.
Smile, baby.
The Notorious Bettie Page.
All right. I had something planned and I forgot what it was. This movie is very unique to me because it is about a person whom I share nothing with, period.
No.
Mainly, I am talking about she walks into a room and everybody wants to fuck her. That's never happened to me.
Right.
That doesn't happen to me.
Wait, it doesn't?
No.
I mean, Mark, I just walked in the room and I was like, man, I really want to fuck him.
You're restraining yourself, though. But, like, the first half of her story is all about, like, the men who use and abuse her and just see her for one thing, basically. And she's completely innocent of all that. Even after she's raped by 5 different guys or something, whatever it was, she seems to go through life like a wide-eyed
kind of happy-go-lucky person.
Yeah.
Pretty much from the beginning of her existence of growing up, and her father was molesting her, and to being raped, to becoming the pinup queen of the world, and it's kind of maybe I'd be curious to know like how accurate it is.
Apparently the movie was shown to Bettie Page by Hugh Hefner, like before it was released to the world, and Bettie Page approved. Said that Gretchen Mol was much prettier than she was in real life.
Well, it's like, it's funny, like Gretchen Mol has she's much more vibrant than I think anytime I've ever seen pictures of Bettie Page. But Bettie Page was always known as that model who just looked like she was having fun doing what she was doing.
She was just exactly a person having fun.
How Gretchen Mol comes across in this movie.
Yeah. You were saying as the credits were rolling, like, man, she looks like she had a lot of fun making this movie.
Yeah.
I had to remind you, she's an actress.
She's an actress. And plus,
she could be pretending to have fun.
It's amazing how the thing that fascinates me about this movie is that it almost makes Mary Harron, the director of this, who also directed American Psycho, to me it shows like a good director when you can take a subject as dark as everything that happens in this movie, and basically show it as if Scorsese directed it, or someone who could take something dark and turn it into something light and bubbly.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Bubbly.
Make you root for these people, in a way. Like, not the rapists, obviously, but the bondage industry, and by the beginnings of this, because it seems
by the end of the movie, you're not really thinking about all these horrible things that happened to her earlier in life.
Well, and
with an abusive husband and rapists and whatever.
And the whole movie is kind of encapsulated by what that guy says to her at the end. It's like, oh, you shouldn't be embarrassed by what you did back then. You should see some of the shit they're doing now, because that's exactly right. Like, what they were doing was so, like, by today's standards, it's kind of like innocent and whatever.
In the little recreations of the spanking videos, I was kind of going like, fuck, like, if I was a fan of spanking, these films would suck because they're not even hitting each other.
Right.
Like, they're coming within like a foot maybe with their hand of spanking someone and then backing off. It's not really a spanking movie, is it? But these days, of course, I'm sure they're doing it with fucking Freddy Krueger glove on.
Should we talk a little bit about who she was, like for anybody who's listening who didn't see this?
I guess so. Yeah. We should give a little background. She's from Nashville, Tennessee, right? Grew up in
South.
Good Christian girl.
Yeah.
And then
always stayed a Christian girl, really.
Yeah. At the end of the movie, she's preaching the word again. How did she even get her first thing? She met somebody on the beach who was like, "Hey, I'm a photographer. Don't worry, I'm also a cop. I'm not a creepo who hangs out at the beach looking to take pictures of people." And she does a few photographs with that guy.
Yeah.
And it kind of, she learns more and more about how
it attracts it attracts a crowd on the beach because it was a black man, photographer taking photos of a woman.
I guess that would be the 50s.
On the beach in New York or Jersey or wherever. And then so he said, "Why don't you come into my studio and do it instead?" So they do some stuff there that was a little bit more risque. I think they even showed her photo, and he was shooting for Esquire or something like that because her picture was on the magazine. So he must have been a photographer for that. But then that kind of burgeons into
she meets more photographers or more people who have these little shoots at their homes and things like that, and she becomes more popular once she learns how to actually pose for photos.
Yeah, and all the while she's trying to take acting classes and be a serious actor, but she's not very good.
I want to get back to that, but we'll keep going through her history a little bit. But basically, she becomes good friends with this brother and sister team. That's what they are, brother and sister. Don't know if you noticed that. Yeah,
I didn't. I just Irving Klaw
and Lili Taylor as his sister. They have a little studio upstairs in their like photo store, and they sell all kinds of prints, like from movie stills and things like that. But they do this kind of fetishy stuff on the side, which involves a lot of bondage, girls tied up in rope, spanking
from clients that come in and ask specifically, and Lili Taylor is very adamant to tell her, and this is kind of like the theme of the movie almost. I don't know if it's the theme of the movie, but there's definitely this whole thing that's like the movie presents bondage as normal, maybe it's not for everybody, but it's presented in the movie as like
it's just a thing some people like, and the girls who were making the material were having a blast doing it. This wasn't like a human trafficking thing where it's do it or I'll knock your teeth in. It was like they show up.
This is a very glamorized view.
It is. I mean, sure. I'm
bondage. She's saying, we have, our clients are really great people. They're really stand-up guys. Like, they're
stand-up
lawyers.
Guys can do some really shitty things.
They're lawyers. They're judges. They're,
Yeah. I'm sure if Bettie Page had gotten that scholarship out of high school and gone to college, maybe she wouldn't have fallen into the fetish photography scene. Like, I'm sure there's always something else a person
couldn't
could
have been
be doing.
An easy thing to fall into back in those days.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
They didn't really make a big thing about how much money she was making. Like, there was never like the montage scene of her rolling around on a bed full of 20s or something like that. So
damn, that would have been a good scene.
Without that motivation, it really was like, oh well, Bettie Page thinks she's, God made her to pose in pictures to make people, quote, happy.
Right, yeah.
That's her purpose on Earth, is to pose in pictures of whatever kind. And it was never about like, well, shit, beats waiting tables. Like, I better do this.
Right.
It was never that. She always thought this is what she wanted to do.
Kind of forward too, and she had men in her life, but they were kind of like, almost like passerbys in the night. Her first husband, it appeared, just beat her if it was a husband.
And that was, what's his name, Dwayne? The
guy from
Walking Dead.
Yeah, from
with
Walking
the crossbow.
Dead. The crossbow guy, yeah.
Is it Dwayne?
That's a good question. I mean,
I haven't watched it in years.
I love that show. But yeah, she just kind of like goes through life and is just kind of like used by people, but she's a little, I don't want to say oblivious, but she's definitely
at least according to this movie, she never finds another man in her life besides God.
Yeah.
Not like a
I
permanent
would
fixture.
believe it after being used your entire life by people. Like,
oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be eager to just like jump back into something that could turn out to be horrible.
The darkest sides of people.
Yeah.
The movie is definitely contained.
It's not epic.
It's not an epic film, and that's primarily because it was shot in a way that was it seemed like they shot black and white film, they shot colored film, and did some pretty cool like color treatment to make it look like.
Well, it could be my old crappy TV. I asked about what they were shooting on because it really looked like video in the black and white scenes. I thought it was video.
No, I remember it was pretty filmic when I saw it. Yeah, we watched a DVD on your cheap little flat screen TV. The blacks were totally crushed, so they couldn't even tell really anyway. But
hey, it made it look really.
They tried
boring.
To shoot it era specific. I thought they
this
did a
TV,
great job.
For being crappy and old is, I have like a color balancing disc that I put in. It's totally up to snuff.
Well, it still crushes the blacks.
I'll crush your blacks.
Whoa.
How many blacks do you have on you right now?
I don't know, racist.
I will fucking crush them.
But it's a whole movie that was shot of the era, and I thought they did a great job of that.
Yeah, it in some parts it really felt like Reefer Madness.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Some scene, especially like an early montage where we see these people getting married, and then like 10 seconds later he's slapping her across the face and she's moving out.
It's almost
I'm
as
like,
bad
wow,
as
that's really fast.
It's almost as bad as the bondage videos of her slapping someone. Like, he literally just turns and smacks her, and it's kind of like the same quality of like hit. It looks more realistic than the other one, but it still looks kind of fake. So it's kind of like he even like acted it out as if it was like era specific.
It felt like it was
of
almost
the time.
an industrial film.
Almost every single establishing shot is a
stock
footage clip. Which is fine.
Whether it's the city or the beach or the woods or anything, we cut to this grainy stock footage.
And that to me is exactly why it was HBO, that this was an HBO movie and it wasn't like...
They probably thought of those shots after the fact anyway. They couldn't afford to send people back out. We'll get some stock footage.
I'm sure this released in like 2 theaters, one on each coast. And
right, just to qualify for any awards. Or
it did get a lot of... You were saying you heard that it wasn't anything special, but I remember hearing that people thought it was great. They thought Gretchen Mol's performance was great.
That's the one thing I heard good about it, was that Gretchen Mol was really good, and she was.
Yeah.
She, like, Bettie Page was apparently a bad actress. Hey, it's better than I can do. Mm-hmm. I always thought it's very hard for an actor to play a bad actor, and she does a good job. It's not like it's usually like so bad this person shouldn't even be considering an acting career, but she did a realistic portrayal of not the best actor. Mm-hmm. I can appreciate that.
What did you think of the movie?
Better than I thought it would be. Mm-hmm. Really liked it a lot. You asked an interesting question before, or said something before. Not sure what the theme is. She grows up a nice Christian girl, a little rebellious perhaps, but is not dating boys, is very like under control by her parents, including her.
Would you say the theme is a question? The thing that kind of followed through the whole movie is what she is doing wrong? Is it wrong?
Right.
Is it against Jesus? Is it against all this?
And I guess she decides it's not against Jesus. It's not unchristian to do what she did, but God has a new mission for her now. Mm-hmm. He wanted her to be in pictures before, but not anymore. That's, I don't know.
It's kind of a fascinating tale,
somebody can, to be honest. If somebody can just go, Jesus wants me to be a millionaire. No. So I'm going to go do that. I mean, I don't buy into that stuff.
It's an interesting story, to be honest.
It's totally interesting, but I don't know that it means anything to me.
Right. I mean, I like this movie just because the performances are amazing, like amazing from top to bottom. It's you I don't know through how many times in the movie you kept pointing out actors and being like, that person was in the Imposters. Every time a new actor came on the screen, though, we were like, Hey, it's that guy. Hey, it's that girl.
There were like 4 connections to the movie The Imposters in this one, and this came out like 6 years after.
Yeah.
I wonder if Lili Taylor knows that guy I spotted and was like, "Hey, just get this guy in for this little role."
Maybe. Yeah.
We'll never know. And if I run into Lili Taylor, I'm gonna ask her.
I need to look and see what Mary Harron's been directing lately, because I know there was another movie beyond this that she did that I enjoyed, other than American Psycho.
Yeah, I can't remember now.
Which was also another very contained, kind of small movie. American Psycho, the way it was done, it's big in theme but small in scope.
Right.
It feels like it's all at a few locations, and I don't know if that's just because she doesn't shoot that many establishing shots.
Well, she shot. I shot Andy Warhol. That's where Lili Taylor comes from.
Which I've seen also.
She's been doing a lot of TV lately.
Yeah, I really like Lili Taylor's a great actress. She was on that canceled, it was either NBC or CBS show about the androids, like the Android Cop or whatever. I don't remember what the hell it's called.
Android Cop?
Yeah.
Almost Human?
Yeah.
That one that's set in the future?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like Seattle or something like that. Anyway.
Yeah, she's been mainly doing TV shows.
Mm.
Ever since I shot Andy Warhol.
All throughout, from David Strathairn to... It was all these actors, I don't know their names, but I love all of them.
Yeah, it was a good stock, for sure.
Yeah.
And they probably decided to do the job to work with Mary Harron, because this was after American Psycho, and they wanted to get on the Mary Harron train.
But American Psycho was what, 2000?
Yeah, I guess so.
Basically I don't want to say it was the beginning of Christian Bale's career, because obviously
Empire of the
Sun came way before that. But
and Newsies
also. But it was his first adult role, I feel like.
Right.
Newsies.
His first role,
teenager,
with sex and violence and blood and guts and stuff. Yeah, had another thing I want to get back to. She, from the word go, she even says in this movie, in high school she was in all the plays. She was an actress. She put acting before her studies in some cases, and that's why she didn't get this scholarship, and that's why she didn't become a teacher, and blah blah blah. So she wants to be an actress, but she's really good at these pictures. She's not so great.
She's good at looking pretty. She's not good at acting.
Even
though she did good in her class that one time.
Yeah. I guess, why do you think she gets so nervous in front of a real film set or a camera crew, but she does these pictures and has a blast? And gets naked and has a blast. And in this acting class, all she has to do is get up on stage and sit in a chair and try to be interesting while just sitting there. Mm-hmm. She doesn't just sit there. She decides to take off her clothes. Right. The teacher's like, no, that's like, the wrong
be natural. Yeah, it's like, no, you don't have to do that. And it's like, but that's kind of what I'd be doing at home by myself.
So I guess I guess I wonder about a person who has found some kind of calling. They get all the success in one arena, but they go, no, this I feel like I'm supposed to be an actress.
I guess it's like she clearly kind of felt like they were kind of not one and the same, but they were similar.
Mm-hmm.
But
performance of sorts.
And like when she did well in that class and she was performing, I don't know what the play was, but her teacher says, that was great. What was your motivation there? And she says, I think about what Jesus would do to me for all my sins.
And that's what made her
God
afraid.
Would do to me for all my sins.
And he said, like, excellent.
Excellent choice. A little surprised by it, but
I would say it's a movie worth watching. I don't know that it's like in my top 50 list somewhere.
No, and I don't think it would be. It's a good solid watch. I've seen it several times, and it's like it's always enjoyable to watch. It's a fun. It's not boring. It's an interesting tale because I can't think of many movies that try to defend bondage. You've got the closest other bondage movies there are in Hollywood are like 7. And that's like, oh fuck.
Or 8mm, which an actor from this movie was in, who plays the creepy bad guy at the end of 8mm. That is definitely an snuff film movie.
Yeah.
I think we can all be okay with the anti-snuff film point of view because those are where they allegedly kill people or do violence on camera. Those are bad, but that was definitely not a pro fetish kind of movie.
That brings up like a whole other thing. The thing that obviously they didn't have to deal with back then is the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And like this seems to go with like any culture, anything, any storyline. I think I had this. I don't know if I had this talk with you about Alien Covenant or not.
I haven't seen Alien Covenant, so you better not ruin anything.
We won't talk about it, but like just the general theme that you've got, whether it's in ideas or storylines, there's always the point of no return. Like, you know.
Right, where you have to follow through on this plot that's been building.
Well, I'm not even talking necessarily about a plot. In Alien, yes. In that case, yes. But it carries across everything from ideas, not just story ideas.
Okay.
Ideas in the sense like bondage. By the end of the movie, the guy comes up to her and says, "You should see what they're making now. It's insane. By comparison to what you were doing is very tame."
Mm-hmm.
And like that, the movie kind of definitely focuses on how kind of silly it all is. You know, back to how archaic the times were. But it's like as a whole, you know, you wonder at what point you do end up going too far and damaging everything as a whole.
Like the culture, like the nation.
The culture of the nation. The reason why I bring that up is like we have a mutual friend. I won't say them who they are.
Okay.
They have they've been building a site that more or less works like a peer-to-peer thing.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like a big torrent site or whatever.
I think I know the one you're talking
Probably.
about.
But it's built in a way that's supposed to be you cannot take things down. Like once it's up on there,
it lives everywhere.
It lives everywhere, and it's impossible to remove it.
Yeah.
Or you'd have to go to everyone's computer that's attached to this network and destroy every node in the
system and just
because it exists all throughout them. And I saw something that they had posted the other day about how they were trying to define for their legalese or their contracts or whatever, what is all encompassing about like the seediest shit you can think of. Because I haven't asked them. I want to talk to them and ask them and be like, are you aware, like, do you know if this kind of stuff is on your network or not? Because I'm sure it will be if it's not already.
Yeah, because there's sickos everywhere.
Like, you know, and there was like hints of like, in the tone of the post, it made it seem like they were aware that there were like murder videos. Like people going out and hunting humans for sport and putting them up on the internet in that sense. Great. So they're on their end. It's like, and like that creates their ethical moral debate. Because on one hand, they're trying to save the internet and make it free for everyone, but at the same time,
if they're gonna host something like that, are they helping somehow? Yeah, are they complicit with the actual act?
And then that brings up the question: well, is there a line for human beings that, as a whole, we shouldn't cross?
Right.
And that's always been the debate about this kind of stuff, like pornography, smut, whatever. You know, for our day and age, it's kind of like people think of it as just kind of like, you know, be free, man. Be free, man. Do what you want to do. But, you know, is there that line that people should not be crossing? Or it goes off into these crazy territories.
I think the internet as a whole is it's a net negative. I would rather have never had the internet.
Right.
It's too late now. It's out of the bag. You're never gonna, you know, piece that thing back together. Right. But when you give a bunch of like millions and billions of people complete anonymity and access to anything they want online, you're gonna basically be creating, or I don't know, but you're gonna be giving a whole lot of bad people a safe space.
Safe haven to meet up and...
Yeah.
And it really has...
And it doesn't even... I mean, God, from anything from murder videos and child porn down to idiots lying about who they are, like the catfish lady. You know, it's sort of creating this space where people can turn in on themselves and just live in their bubble, and especially politically.
Right.
I try not to do that myself, but it happens anyway.
Well, it's certainly created a divisive atmosphere in general, politically.
Yeah.
Because especially Facebook, where you get everyone kind of has gradually gotten to their side.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just like they're so far removed from the middle that even the middle is far enough away from them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
like this movie is about.
And not to bring this back politically, but yeah, I don't know. That's kind of like what her struggle is in this movie is. You know, what's the line?
What is the line? And the movie's sort of almost bookended by these scenes in like a congressional hearing or something. I don't know if they ever say who was holding these hearings, but it's all about this. What's the legality of mailing these images? Should it be illegal to mail this material back and forth? And she's waiting outside the courtroom in the hallway all day for 12 hours. They finally get to the end and let everybody else have their say, and they say, "Oh, we no longer need your testimony."
Right.
And up to that point, I was expecting this movie to end like a
With
People
her.
versus Larry Flint sort of a thing, where she has her big moment and says, "No, we're just having fun. We just like to be in the pictures.
Right.
We're not trying to hurt anybody."
Do you think they would have listened to her anyway?
No.
Witch hunts rarely.
Well, that's why they told her to go ahead and leave. They weren't going to listen to her.
Right.
Even if she walked in there on her own, they weren't going to let her. They wouldn't have given her any weight anyway.
David Strathairn really does play like a good judge. I feel like he's always...
Well, he's got that authoritarian sort of presence, like, I'm in charge here, don't you
I'm in charge
stand up against me.
And down with your smut.
Down with your smut.
I mean, this is one of those movies we could really talk hours about the politics behind it.
Yeah.
And the culture behind it.
I don't know if I should even mention I know somebody in the industry today. I don't want to say who, because she's got her own thing going on.
The bondage industry?
Well, like the adult entertainment industry, porn industry, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were trying to come up with some Spanish way to say it, like the
No, I was just fucking up my speaking. Sometimes you just can't speak correctly. Won't say who or what she does, but she has a theory about how people get into some of the weird stuff and why it started with something simple like spanking or whatever, and it spins into other areas, like
spanking out from childbirth or from just screwing around once you're fully grown.
What is the question?
You said.
Well, some people
it starts from develops from
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm getting to that point. Like some people are into spanking. And some people are into fucking death videos.
All right.
And some people are into chicks with no legs or whatever. I have even heard, God, people are going to just be like, oh yeah, these are all your fetishes now.
Yeah. What's your buddy's name?
Methinks he doth protest too much. There's a blueberry fetish. You know why? Fucking Willy Wonka. The girl who turns into a blueberry... Violet Beauregard. You're turning Violet. People have a blueberry fetish.
Yeah.
They want to see women dressed up as blueberries because, and this is my friend's theory, because they saw that movie at a certain time in their life, at a certain age, certain time in puberty, where that was like their sexual awakening. They were getting into girls, and this girl was turning into a blueberry, and they kept on coming back to that in their minds. And now that's what they like.
Yeah.
And you can do that with anything. With the spanking, like if a kid was still getting spanked by weird parents when they were hitting puberty, maybe they associated those two things.
And how long have you had this fetish?
I'm not going to tell you whose theory this is.
I mean, I've never heard that one, but
the blueberry one.
It does
that
seem
was the
like,
weirdest one.
It does seem like there's a fetish for everything. I mean, but she's talking about how people got into
how people get into these things and where the new ones come from.
Right. I mean, even if I had the fetish on here, I wouldn't talk about it. But I've never really understood bondage.
No, I don't get it. Like, and that's a question. Like, if this theory was correct, who is getting tied up when they're a little kid, or seeing people getting tied up and latching onto that as their like sexual ideal or something?
Well, it's always been like a domination thing, like.
Yeah, like the one guy who comes up and he's like, I bet you hate all these people who come up and grovel. Don't you just want to punish us?
There's been some sort of like sexual profiling on like how people get to be.
Yeah, I don't know.
That sort of.
I guess I wouldn't know, but I haven't heard of anything like that. It's a mystery, as far as I know.
Yeah, we've been.
The show I don't know who, but some people like rubbing fresh tacos on their butts. I'm just saying. I don't know who. But some people.
Steve Fanning, right? You're talking about Steve.
Yeah, he broke down. He got really brave with me one day and he told me. As long as I didn't tell anybody on the podcast about his taco butt fetish.
Yeah. We're talking... the current show I'm on deals with serial killers that existed in real life. And there's one in particular called BTK.
Bind, torture, kill.
Bind, torture, kill, because that's how he killed his victims. He would bind... Well, first of all, he'd go into their place and he'd say, I have a sexual problem. He would wait for them in the kitchen. And the women would come home after he's, stalked them for a year, basically, to know their schedule and everything. He would sit in their kitchen, and then they'd come home, and he would say, I'm going to tie you up. I have a sexual problem.
And this is like, is he one of these guys who has a costume and shit, like Zodiac?
I don't think he... No, I think he just had like a beanie or whatever. He would just say, I have sexual fantasies about this sort of thing, tying people up. I'm going to do that and take care of myself, so to speak, and then I'm going to leave. I'm going to have sex with you or whatever.
Without telling them that he would kill them.
And you'll be fine. Just go ahead. If you go along with it, the sooner it'll be over.
A desperate person, of course, might go along with that.
There's one testimony. The first... I won't even get into the first people who were killed, but he did this over the course of like 30 years.
Yeah, and they caught this guy eventually.
Eventually, they caught him in like 2006 or something like
that.
And he'd been going since the 70s. And, but I remember, not for our show, but I was reading into, like, I want to know who these people were. And like, I watched his testimony or whatever on YouTube. And like, the judge is asking like these very basic questions. And, listening to court speak about horrible things is just kind of like, it takes a little while to wrap your mind around it. And he was talking about the whole concept of how this one woman he killed, like he had said all this stuff to her, said, I have a problem. And she said, okay, I really need to pee. Is that okay? I just need to get ready. And he said, yeah, okay, fine. And she's like, all right, well, let's just get this over with so I can call the cops. And like, so he had convinced her enough that she was like on board. And like, of course, after he's tied them up, he strangles them to death, puts a bag over their head and basically suffocates them.
Yeah.
Kills them. But he was known for, he'd take pictures of the victims like tied up, bound.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly like this movie, you see people bound up like that, but then he would, in his years between killing people, he would actually dress up himself in this bondage gear, set up his camera on a self-timer.
Like a gimp suit kind of a thing?
He would dig trenches, and he would lay down in them with like a bag over his head, and he would just totally look like
one of the
50-year-old dude. Yeah, a 50-year-old dude tied up and bound up just like his victims, and he would...
So you can tie yourself up like that.
He would get off on... Yeah, I don't know how in the hell he did it, but he would get off on taking pictures of himself in those positions in the meantime in between killing these people. This is, of course, like not a stand-up guy who is into this kind of stuff. So it's like there's a seedy side that this movie doesn't really touch upon. Yeah. Obviously, they're trying to present it as if it's like all flowers and rainbows and
right. I mean,
dandy.
There are probably innumerable lives that have been damaged by sort of being forced into the adult entertainment world. That was their only option.
Sure.
Yeah, just because a few successful ones at the top say, "Hey, it's okay." Sometimes it's not okay, and I mean, there's a bunch of documentaries on Netflix about that very thing. After Porn Ends, I think is one. I haven't seen that one, but there's the one called like Hot Girls Wanted for cam girls,
and this isn't even like necessarily like bondage related.
Right, that's not even
just abusive in general.
Right. It's just the industry. Very few people go to school, and graduate high school and go like, you know what, I'm gonna get into porn. That's gonna be a very wise life choice for me. People kind of end up there, and it might turn out okay. Probably won't, if I was gonna guess. But I don't want to demonize all those people either. They're just people doing what they think they gotta do. But I think the potential for abuse is so high.
Oh yeah.
Like Bettie Page lucked out.
Well, it certainly seems like she was never on record as saying that she was abused in any of her time.
No.
Like, at least I believe. During, I doubt she would have approved this movie after having seen it if it showed like a certain group of people that had actually treated her negatively. Like the Claw people, the Claw brother and sister.
Yeah.
But for the most part, for the most part, once she got into the industry, it was almost entirely professional. Well beyond. Everybody's kind of like in the film industry when you're on set and they're shooting a sex scene. It's like people get really serious.
Oh yeah.
And like break it down. Like
no one is having a good time when a sex scene is being filmed.
And if they are, something's wrong.
Then you've got a fetishist on your crew, and you should have a talk with them.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I've got nothing else to say.
Okay.
In particular about this movie because we could go on for.
Yeah, this is
tangents.
Part of a much larger conversation, I guess.
Yes.
Come back next week for our second podcast, all about porn and all about bondage fetishists,
which is probably going to have my girlfriend Orla in your place.
Oh?
He's so confused. He doesn't even know.
Oh, you're taking the recorder with you tonight?
Yes.
Fucker. I guess I'm used to it now.
Casting Mark out. Getting my revenge for being off of 4 episodes.
Yeah, I think, what did I do, like 3?
I mean, Ashley was on an episode. I gotta have Orla on one.
Okay, alright. And then maybe they can do one without us. Yeah.
That'd be hilarious.
We're just giving the keys to the inmates here.
We'll see. Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Maybe it won't happen.
Well, good luck with all that.
Yeah.
I hope she's half as entertaining as Ashley was.
You guys were pretty entertaining last week.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you thought so.
I do have to say one last closing thought that all these other podcasts that I haven't been in, and I've never seen the movies that you were talking about.
You want to see them now?
Yeah. Generally.
I guess you wanted to see them already.
I mean,
I just happened to choose some.
I assume most of our audience is kind of coming from the same point of view. I mean, listening to us two bore jobs like talk about movies, even though we're spoiling the plot, probably no one's really listening to us anyway.
Some people just like to have something on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. Well, you can find us on Mark's favorite platform, Instagram. At
why?
At The Hell With This Podcast.
Or thehellwiththis.com.
Thehellwiththis.com and our
iTunes.
Facebook page, which should be up, but to be honest, I don't really want my family finding it, so I haven't posted it yet. Yeah. Whatever.
We do such a good job with marketing.
Go listen.
Let's give ourselves a pat on the back.
We kind of actually don't want anyone to hear this ever.
Yeah.
Oh wait, are we talking about something?
A very, small, select group of people know who we are, and I think that's what's important here.
You're small.
The same people who know what Kafifi means.